Miss Pocky Sharma, a devoted supporter of Modi and the BJP, as well as a vocal advocate for the so-called revival of Bharat, has recently found herself facing unexpected challenges. For years, Western capital has championed India's rise as the next economic powerhouse and an alternative to China. However, in a sudden turn of events, foreign investors are now pulling out of India on a large scale, and the country's economic growth has slowed sharply. Wall Street's financial giants are aggressively shorting Indian markets. And even the United States government has turned its attention to Modi's key financial backer, Adani, hitting India where it hurts. Adding further insult, former United States President Donald Trump extended an invitation to Xi Jinping for an official visit, but completely ignored Modi, despite India being the so-called largest democracy in the world. How did India go from being hailed as China's replacement and an economic miracle to suddenly becoming an isolated and struggling nation, abandoned on the global stage? This harsh reality has been difficult for Palki Sharma, who was once full of confidence. Not long ago, she proudly reported that Pakistan was about to acquire J-35 fighter jets, securing fifth-generation aircraft before India. Just days later, China successfully tested a new generation of fighter bombers, leaving India lagging 2 generations behind. Meanwhile, India's own fifth-generation fighter, the AMCA, remains stuck at the conceptual stage, with no tangible progress beyond flashy PowerPoint presentations. Other than indulging in endless technical comparisons online, India seems to have no concrete strategy to match China's J-20 in real combat. It is often said that behind every successful man is a strong woman. In India's case, Modi's aura of greatness has enveloped the nation, and Palki Sharma has dedicated her best years to glorifying him and the BJP. They are the leading figures in the grand dream of Bharat's revival. A decade ago, Modi was still a middle-aged leader making bold promises to the Indian people. He vowed to transform India into a global manufacturing hub, outcompete China, and establish dominance in fields like 5G, AI, military technology, and aerospace. Yet, after 10 long years, India has little to show for these grand claims, apart from exaggerated rhetoric and increasing ridicule. The country remains stuck in incomplete industrialization, still home to the world's largest population, living in extreme poverty, the highest number of illiterates, and some of the worst sanitation conditions globally. Far from becoming a military or technological superpower, India was instead forced to purchase French Rafale fighter jets, paying nearly 3 times the cost of an F-35. Meanwhile, Palki Sharma enthusiastically reported that these 4th-generation jets could rival China's 5th-generation J-20 fighters. Even India's prized Tejas fighter, which is a source of national pride, suffers from severe limitations. Production numbers are low, and most of its critical components, including engines, radar systems, and weaponry, are still imported. In reality, the only truly domestic part is its outer shell. Yet, despite this, Palki Sharma continues to passionately promote the aircraft as a symbol of India's supposed aerospace capabilities, insisting that it demonstrates the nation's ability to develop its own fighter jets. For years, India has positioned itself as a rising superpower, a challenger to China, and the next global manufacturing hub. Government officials, media personalities, and nationalist voices like Palki Sharma have proudly promoted India's rapid ascent. They have painted a picture of an unstoppable force, with a booming economy, cutting-edge technology, and military advancements that rival the world's leading powers. However, the cracks in this narrative are becoming more evident. Despite ambitious rhetoric, the reality of India's economic and military progress tells a different story. The country faces setbacks across multiple fronts: technology, defense, and trade, all of which reveal a troubling disconnect between perception and reality. India has long aspired to establish itself as a dominant naval power, boasting a 2-carrier battle group to project strength across the Indian Ocean. However, there is one glaring issue. India still does not have modern fighter jets to operate from these carriers. Currently, the Indian Navy relies on the MiG-29, an aircraft that even Russia has retired from frontline service due to reliability issues. While India dreams of developing its own advanced carrier-based fighter, delays and technical hurdles have left the fleet without a competitive air force. Meanwhile, India's domestically produced aircraft carriers, such as INS Vikrant, suffer from outdated designs and serious power limitations. Despite these challenges, Palki Sharma enthusiastically promotes them as being superior to China's aircraft carrier battle groups. However, military analysts remain skeptical. China has steadily advanced its carrier program, with its latest warships featuring advanced electromagnetic launch systems and nuclear propulsion, capabilities that India's carriers are still years away from achieving. India's attempts to establish a credible nuclear-powered submarine fleet have also faced severe setbacks. The INS Arihant, India's first domestically built nuclear submarine, suffered an embarrassing and costly incident when seawater accidentally flooded its interior during a routine operation. This catastrophic failure, caused by human error, rendered the submarine inoperable for months. Despite this blunder, Palki Sharma proudly proclaimed that India had firmly secured its place among the world's nuclear powers and had developed a credible second strike capability. However, the reality is far less impressive. While India does possess nuclear-armed submarines, their operational readiness and effectiveness remain uncertain. Meanwhile, China continues to expand its submarine fleet, introducing more advanced models with superior stealth and firepower. Palki Sharma has also boasted about India's supposed advancements in missile technology, claiming that the country had officially joined the elite club of nations with hypersonic missile capabilities. However, when India attempted to test these missiles, the world was left puzzled. During test launches, Indian hypersonic missiles were seen flying with their protective covers still attached, making them the only ballistic missiles in the world to launch while wearing a hat. This blunder highlighted ongoing issues with India's defense technology and raised doubts about its ability to match global missile powers such as China, Russia, and the United States. More alarming is the unpredictable performance of India's Agni series missiles. While Palki Sharma praised them as a game-changing deterrent, several test launches resulted in the missiles veering off course and landing in unintended locations. Some even landed in neighboring countries, raising concerns about safety and accuracy. This has inadvertently given India one of the most unpredictable missile deterrent capabilities in the world, where any country, including India itself, could become an unintended target. India has long sought to position itself as a global technology hub, but its efforts to challenge China in the digital space have fallen short. When the Indian government banned Chinese apps like TikTok, nationalists celebrated, declaring that Indian companies would quickly fill the gap. Palki Sharma led the charge, claiming that this was a golden opportunity for India's software industry. Yet, despite India's reputation as a global leader in software development, no Indian app managed to replace TikTok. Instead, the vacuum left by TikTok's ban was swiftly filled by American tech giants, proving that India's domestic tech industry was not yet ready to compete at the highest level. The Make in India initiative was launched with great fanfare, with the promise of transforming India into the world's next major manufacturing powerhouse. Palki Sharma and other nationalist voices confidently predicted that India's rise would lead to China's decline, and that soon, the world would be filled with Indian-made products. However, the harsh reality is that India's dependence on China has only deepened. Instead of reducing reliance on Chinese imports, India's trade deficit with China has continued to grow. India now sends over $100 billion annually to China in foreign exchange reserves, contradicting the narrative of economic self-sufficiency. Despite government efforts to encourage local production, industries in India still struggle with infrastructure challenges, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and a lack of skilled labor. Meanwhile, China continues to dominate global supply chains, producing everything from electronics to advanced industrial machinery at a scale and efficiency that India has yet to match. 10 years ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented an ambitious vision for India, promising to transform the nation into a global manufacturing leader, a technological powerhouse, and a military superpower. Nationalists like Palki Sharma enthusiastically supported these claims, promoting the idea that India would replace China as the world's next economic miracle. However, a decade later, the results paint a different picture. India remains an industrially underdeveloped country, still struggling with widespread poverty, illiteracy, and sanitation challenges. While the government boasts about progress, millions of Indians continue to live in poor conditions, with limited access to basic services. In the military sphere, India has not achieved the dominance it once aspired to. It continues to rely heavily on foreign suppliers for critical defense equipment, paying premium prices for outdated hardware like the French Rafale fighter jet. purchased at nearly 3 times the cost of an American F-35. As for the grand vision of Make in India, the country has yet to reach the level of self-sufficiency needed to challenge China's manufacturing dominance. Instead, it finds itself more dependent on Chinese imports than ever before, contributing billions to China's economic strength while struggling to close its own industrial gaps. Every year, India promotes itself as a rising technological powerhouse, yet it remains heavily dependent on foreign imports for critical high-tech components. Even so, China often restricts the export of advanced technologies to India as a way to pressure its government during diplomatic disputes. This dependency highlights a major contradiction in India's ambitions. It wants to rival China, but still lacks self-sufficiency in key industries. One of the most striking examples of this gap was in space exploration. When India announced its Mars mission, nationalist voices like Palki Sharma proudly declared that India had surpassed China in aerospace technology. However, reality soon set in. While India successfully sent a probe to orbit Mars, China took a far more ambitious step, landing a Mars rover that transmitted extensive video and image data back to Earth. When China then collected lunar soil from the far side of the Moon and successfully returned it to Earth, India's nationalist voices suddenly went silent. As China continued expanding its space station and set new records for astronaut spacewalks, India's limitations in human spaceflight became even more apparent. The country has yet to send a single astronaut into space, despite decades of aspirations. If India were to attempt a manned mission without the necessary technological advancements, Palki Sharma might find herself narrating an unfortunate disaster rather than a moment of triumph. Despite its grand ambitions, India still struggles to master even basic telecommunications technologies. A decade after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's promises of digital transformation, India still faces challenges in developing its own 2G communication technology, let alone competing in the race for 5G and 6G innovations. Meanwhile, China has surged ahead, not only deploying nationwide 5G networks, but also leading the world in 6G research and artificial intelligence. Chinese AI firms are now among the world's most advanced, pioneering breakthroughs in deep learning, automation, and semiconductor technologies. In contrast, India lacks a globally recognized AI company and remains far behind in AI research and development. One of the few areas where India has seen significant digital activity is in online fraud, earning an unfortunate reputation for widespread telecom scams. As years pass, even the most enthusiastic nationalist propagandists face the weight of reality. Figures like Palki Sharma, who have tirelessly championed Modi's vision, must now confront the fact that many of these promises remain unfulfilled. Keeping up appearances in front of the cameras becomes increasingly difficult when news of China's technological breakthroughs continuously dominates global headlines. While Modi once positioned himself as the leader who would propel India to global prominence, after more than a decade in power, his government has failed to deliver the transformation it promised. Instead of closing the gap with China, India finds itself facing mounting economic and technological challenges. The patriotic rhetoric that once energized supporters is now being tested by the stark realities of economic stagnation, industrial setbacks, and an ever-widening technological divide. There's a well-known quote attributed to President Abraham Lincoln. "You can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all the time." This wisdom holds true today. No matter how well propaganda is packaged, reality eventually catches up. If India genuinely aspires to be a global superpower, it must move beyond nationalist slogans and invest in real innovation, infrastructure, and scientific advancement. Otherwise, it risks being left behind while others continue their journey to the future.